This week's Pasha, there were a few words which were a bit out of sync with the normal chronology of the Torah, as we would know it. There is, for example, the words which are written is V'haknahami oz ba'oretz. That's a word that the az ba'oretz seems as if when it was written, these words were written, the Knaanim were not anymore in the Oretz. But that's somehow does not fit because the Knaanim were still Ba'oretz even after Moshe passed away. It was only with Yeshua. So the Aknani Oz Ba'oretz seems to be out of sync with the chronology of the text, both in the text as it was at the time, but also especially with when Moshe Rabbeinu was alive. And the question is also till when was it then written? And it's repeated again. It's also in this week's parsha. It's the Oz again. It's written. Then there is also two cities which are mentioned. Ein Mishpot hi Kodesh. That Ein Mishpot. This is the Kodesh. This is the city of Kodesh. Seems also to be a little bit out of sync. Maybe not. I haven't seen that, but this is how I assume it. And also V'yaku eskol sedehu Amoleki, and they were fighting in the whole Sode of Amoleki, and this already Rashi understands that this is a problem. Amalek was not born yet. Amalek was born only after he was an Einikel of Esau, and basically it would not have been at the time of Avraham. And so this is a text which Al Shem Osid. And then there is also Vayirdoiv at Don, that he was Roidevim at Don. Don is a city that existed only in Parshas, I think, Parshas Shoftim. That is still the Parshas Shoftim. I mean, in the Zman of the Shoftim, that Don was created as a city, and so this is also a little bit out of sync. Already, the Radak in Shmuel mentions it because there is another problem in Shmuel Aleph. Vayachanu al ho'even o'ezer uplishtim chono bo'apei. So al ho'even o'ezer is a place that only got named much later than the text has seen here. So he says that the divrei hasoifer change it. These are the words of the soifer. So there is a soifer that actually put this Even Ezer. It doesn't say Al Shem Osid, but it's as if this Divrei HaSoifer, the Soifer, he knew he was already at the time when it was Even Ezer, and he is the Soifer is the one that has put in this, instead of the old name, has put the name Even Ezer. V'chein, he says, Vayirdoiv Adon. So our apostle, Vayirdoiv Adon, the Radak says the same thing, that this is the Soifer, whoever may mean, who adds on this word Vayirdoiv Adon. Because that cannot be, unless those who want to be very traditional and want to conservative will say this is the Soifer. Radak means Moshe Rabbeinu. That Moshe Rabbeinu is the Soifer, but then he would have said Moshe Rabbeinu. I don't know why he would use the word Soifer as being as the one that has already changed the name of the city. That problem of inconsistencies existed already mamish in the first parsha, Parshas Bereshis, when we are mentioning the Gan Eden. So it says, "V'shem Anor Hashem Gichon Hu Hasoivev Eskol Eretz Kush." So that's clear. Eretz Kush did not exist in the time of the Gan Eden. There was only one person that existed at that time. V'shem Anor Hashlishi Dekel Haler Kidmas Ashur. Ashur for sure also did not exist. So Kush and Ashur, Rashi already also explained the Kosav Amikro al Shem Osid. So Rashi many times have to explain the Kosav al Shem Osid, but we don't know. It doesn't tell us who wrote it and when was it written. So is it written Benevur or is just written al Shem Osid? So it leaves it open for us to speculate who has written it, when it was written.
Maybe also
And Moshe Rabbeinu added it. Oh, yeah. So that's how the easiest way out is that Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that knew where Ashur and Kush would be, And therefore, he knew where it was, and therefore, this is the way that in Parshas Devorim, in Sefer Devorim, the whole Sefer Devorim we know is the Mishnah Torah from Moshe Rabbeinu. So the Sefer Devorim is normally written in the I form. I tell you. So it's always in the I form. Moshe Rabbeinu gives a speech here, but the first 5 sentences of Elu Devorim, Asher Diber Moshe, is written in the third form. And so the question is, so what is the meaning of Moshe Rabbeinu writing himself in the third form? So he kind of had made the speech, then he wrote down the speech, and then he wrote 5 psukim, the first 5 psukim in the third form. So Ela Dvorim Asher Diber Moshe, who wrote this? That's the question. Yeah. So who wrote Ela Dvorim Asher Diber Moshe Es Yisrael? And then he says Be'ever HaYarden. And Be'ever HaYarden is very difficult because Be'ever HaYarden always means, normally it means the Jordan means the East Bank. And here, so that Be'ever HaYarden is where they were in the East Bank. And so normally when you say Be'ever HaYarden, when Yeshua speaks a lot Be'ever HaYarden, when Yeshua says Be'ever HaYarden, it means the Ammon, Moab, it means the Menashe, all the East Bank of the Yarden, because he was standing there. Be'ever means on the other side. And so, but Moshe Rabbeinu was standing on the Ever HaYarden from other perspective. So it means when you said Be'ever HaYarden, Moshe Rabbeinu could not have used that expression Be'ever HaYarden. And so the Ibn Ezra explains that there is a sod which he does not want to tell, but he mentions this, and he mentions Vaknani Oz Ba'oretz, and he mentions also the last 12 sukkim of the Torah. Yeah, exactly. He mentions the last 12 psukim of Ayal Moshe Me'arvois Moyo, and he says that this is the sod, but there he says it mefurish. So while there he said it's a sod, and he compares it to those 12 psukim and to the Aknani Oz V'Oretz and to another few cases, here he explains it explicitly that this did not write Moshe Rabbeinu, but it was written by Yehoshua.
When you have this days, first you get one of those errors, then so here's the time of
Yeah.
And then we have the normal time here. Can I say that would have actually that was my didn't think of it, but from the moment that you say now you go to Israel and give Israel the point of view of the Torah and the point of view of the Israel at the moment, not point of view of going to the land, but they are already there, and they are still as Baaretz, means it's all in. We are in it, but you know
we're not there yet.
No, we are there, but we have the details that and of course the point of view, it's the point of view of the Jewish people in their land.
Yeah,
and then all we see now is just a way for us to do it. Even today, for instance, when we speak about Israel, we say Aretz. When you say Aretz, you know it's quite. I live in France. I don't live there, but when I will say Aretz, I say, "Oh, you speak about France, no, I speak about Israel."
Yeah.
Why? Because that's my point of view.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's a very. You're giving. There's a lot other explanations as well, but this is a very nice explanation where you're telling is that since the idea, the end goal is to be in Eretz Yisrael, so we are talking in a perspective as being in Eretz Yisrael. That the whole Torah is speaking.
Yeah, but today with the message, we should act like it's a machine when we comment every day on the comment for Pesach, etc. We have the chiv today of going to the base Pesach. It's a chiv that we all have. Yeah. The fact that the Beis Hamikdash is not present today, it's a detail. It's not. It's no more but a detail. Okay, factually we cannot go, but we're exactly the same. And my question actually that was not my question, but I will say my I will say then why is
Even as
why is the Ebenezer is not this would be my question. Why is not choosing this point of view and it's trying So he say a son, we don't know what it means. One will not go, but say a son, and will not take this point of mind, but I will consider by default as a easy point of view.
Because you're taking point of view of you made an analysis. You have to make an analysis, which is the people that wrote narrative at that time, did they use this type of construction? So you're saying that when you have an ambition to go somewhere, then you can write at some point, you can go back and saying, I'm writing from a position as I'm going to be there to go back. Is this something that you find back in
that's not my question. I'm more pervert. Say my postulate now so I need to take the point of view that as the Jewish people, we always take the point of the end goal of Hashem, and that's how I can explain that I learned that how I should act myself in my own mind. But
Ibn Ezra takes an easy way out.
Doesn't take this point of view. So why he rejects it?
That's my question. No. He takes academic perspective where he says it doesn't make sense, and therefore, and since also it is written, he doesn't say, but it makes sense because it was written in the third form by Rabbi Moshe, and he writes in the third form. So it means that those 5 psukim were written later and were added to the Sefer Dvorim. So that's how he is normal. It's like a simple explanation. He uses the simple way instead of going a bit more.
It's not simple.
What? Sorry?
Is this explaining for us?
No, because for us, we have the Rambam. So we were born with the Rambam. And then it's the Ikkar of the Rambam, which says one is not allowed to say that it was written later on. And so for us, it's a difficult, what, sorry?
I said that, okay. So there is a point of view of so one person that I'm not.
Yeah.
The third was at today. I mean, that was created. I would say it's a time of Ezra or that.
Yeah.
It's not the third that was created. So when we say Taylor's it's
not the exact words, but it is the mitzvahs.
No, so we never speak when it's never speak with Torah only, but it's written with the additions
of other Nevi'im, and I will go a bit more. Yeah. Also, there is a question here. He speaks about Naphtali and Eretz. Okay, then he speaks about Eretz Yehuda and Naphtali as if we knew at the time when Naphtali and Yehuda, this was up here, Goyro. And also the expression of Vayifku. So let's say, even if Moshe Rabbeinu would have been writing, because that's 12 psukim, that's not Rishonim, that's already the Gemara. There's a Machlokes in Tannuim. Who wrote the last 12 psukim? So already there's a Machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia with, I think, Rabbi Shimon or Rabbi Shmuel, I don't remember anymore, I think it's Rabbi Shimon, who wrote the last 12 psukim. Some say that from the Tannuim hold that it was Moshe Rabbeinu himself, but he wrote with the tears, and others say it's Taki Yeshua. So there is a Tannuim who hold that not the whole Torah was written by Moshe Rabbeinu, but 12 psukim, the last 12 psukim were written by Yehoshua. So that is not such a shocking for the Tannuim. It's not so shocking as it would be for the Rambam. The Rambam does not mention that part in his Ikkar to explain. So that's something which is interesting. There is one posuk which is clearly, which I always knew that is where you have to read it like that. Uvnei Israel, I mean, where you have to think about that. When it says that the mon has fallen down in Parshas Beshalach, it says Uvnei Israel ochlu es hamon aboim shonu ad boyom el eretz noishoves es hamon ochlu ad boyom el kitze eretz kenoam. So this is the mon fell till they came into Eretz Israel. So it's a question of means, in other words, that Moshe Rabbeinu already knew that the mon will stop falling once they passed the Eretz Israel. And that's something which was after he passed away. So Moshe Rabbeinu already knew that it would be, it's a Loshen Ochlu. So it's also a question, it's again Loshen of past tense. So if he would have said, V'nei Yisrael yoichlu es hamon aboim shono, then it's Nevuah. But to say a past tense, that's already a problem. because that makes that you are not saying nevuah that is true. So I'm saying, if I say you ate, that's something which is sheker, because you can only say nevuah is you will eat. I foresee in the future that you will eat. I have to use the form of you will eat and not you ate. And this is the same also in Vayichtov, Vayigboir, Vayivku. It's always in the past tense. So what is the pshat in the past tense? So for this, I have a personal answer, which I don't know in Digduk. I didn't have the time to check in Digduk. But in English, you have, and probably also in French, most languages you have is the past and the future. So I can say, I will learn something, and by the evening, I will have finished. You understand? So I have to learn a daf. Don't worry, by 11 o'clock, by 5 o'clock this afternoon, I will have finished already. So it's like a sense which goes to the future, but it goes back in the past. I will have finished. Have finished is the past sense. But I use the will so that I will have finished by that time. So you have this possibility that Uvnei Yisrael, Ochlo Esamon, is like saying, Ad Boyem Eretz Noishoves means that they will have eaten the mon when they come into Eretz Yisrael. So the past sense is a past sense which is also in the future. So he puts himself in a place after the fact, which gives him the possibility to use a past sense as well. So Vayikfu, Vayikbo, the past sense that is used here can be a future sense which goes a few days after the fact, so that he can use the past sense. But it's a possibility. But there's much more that I would like to share with you. Many more examples that we see that. So no. I will bring you more.
When I say you also say the fact that when the Torah we never take it, we always change the word, change the definition, the sense, the words, we put better. And then suddenly we take the Torah like the Christian or the Muslims, and we say, Muslims. That's the word, that's the wording. It's also for Nevuah, we know it's never. But here it's like we take literally and it should make your perspective should make sense when you read it. There is also a literal truth in the Torah. When you read it and translate, that's also a truth. That's important to know.
What do you mean? That's
the postulate of all your truth. That's whatever you read, and what is written is without more explanation. If you see that it's written like that, stop eating the man. No, this by itself, without any explanation,
should be true. Yeah.
That's for me. That's a chidush ever. Even by the, it's literally because that's a mistake. Do we have a source?
Because what do you mean then? Because if it's true, and therefore you have a problem of how can you? Because you have a pshat and you have a drush. Normally we learn api drush, but you're saying now we learn api pshat, and then we have a problem.
I will just take what you want. So then we just take what you wrote with the summary of your shiur. Shiur reviewing passages is a format that seems not in sync with the chronology. Okay. Not in sync with chronology. So it means when you read each sense, and by itself, the literal sync should be by itself should be correct.
So the whole text should have a chronology.
Do we have a
No.
Because that's basically because if you say no, you can read it. It doesn't make sense. I don't care.
It's like what you said, that we believe that there could be inconsistency in the Torah. It doesn't change the holiness and the truth of the Torah.
Anyway, I'm not discussing with the Torah. I'm just saying that this postulate.
I know. I understand. I think I understand what you're asking. So it's not a book of history, basically. The question is it a historical book that has to be accurate?
Also, historical. Or not. If you say yes, then indeed. Otherwise.
The whole idea here is that apparently, according to some, and I will bring you now, they said mefurish. So They came out in Hamayon in Toshin Lamed. They found Kisveyot from Moshe Skenim, the Bala Toisves on Pirush on the Torah. And there is a posuk here which says, when it brings down Ve'ela Amlochem Asher Molchu Be'eretz Edom Lifnei Meloch Melech Lifnei Yisrael, Vayimloch Ve'edom Bela, and then he brings him Vayomos Bola, Vayimloch Tachtov Zerach, Vayover Ben Zerach, and then he died, and then he continues and says Ve'ele Shmois Alufa Ed Esop. So then he went off because it says in the beginning that Lifnei Meloch Melech Lifnei Yisrael. So Asher Molch Ve'ela Amlochem Asher Molchu Be'eretz Edom Lifnei Meloch Melech Lifnei Yisrael. Before the kings of Eretz Yisrael were kings, then there were kings in Edom. After, when the kings have started to become kings, then they changed. From being a king, they became Alufe. The kingdom of Edom disappeared, and they were interchanged by Alufim. It's a different kind of kingdom. And this Eile, Livnei Meloch Melech Livnei Israel, that did not happen in the time of Moshe, it happened much later. And so the Rambam explains, Sheparsha zu nichtevo bimei shoftim. Sheparsha zu nichtevo bimei shoftim. And so the Moshe Skenim, Efshar Sekatoro Chosa v'niktar Hashem Moshe Rabbeinu שהרי קמו, או את כוש, הרי קמו מקרוש כוס המוישה רבינו על שם אוסי, כמו שפירוש רש"י, that by kush and ashu, ולא ידע נכתוב במיקרו על שם אוסי. So therefore he believes it's a gimgum, that it is a problem of the Rashbam. So but there is a pirush of Rashbam that seems to be saying there's a ksaviat on the name of the Rashbam, the parsha zu nichtevo bimei shoftim, but the Baal HaTosfos, this Mesader of the Baal HaTosfos says it's a gimgum, because the truth is that the Rashbam himself here, he speaks about Al Shem Sofer. So with the Rashbam that we have printed, the same Rashbam says not like that, says like the Tosfos, and but the Rashbam in the Ksaviyah that they found is but they bring down onto the Rashbam, it brings down that this was written Mana Shoifte. The Medrash Seichel Tov, he says, "Ve'ela amlochim hoisif al amlochim shamlochim en boim mimekoymes harbe u'moilchim be'edom lifnei meloch melech lifnei Yisrael misheportzu bnei Edom ad shemolach Shaul ben Kish beYisrael." So it is. He brings down that Shaul, the king Shaul, changed them. There used to be kings in Edom, and Shaul made war against them, and he made sure that there's no more kingdom. You can be aluf. So he made like a fazal, or they were under. The Edom were under the Jewish control. So there were no more kings, they were alufim. The Kosvom Hasadron Yachdo, Kedei Lesayim Inin Ateven Bakash, Lesalko Marabo. So Hasadron, he uses, brought this list of the kings in here in order to finish off the story in There is another Vayosem Oiso Yosef, and then Yosef made these rules, and he says Ada Yoim Hazeh, that till today Mitzrayim, this is the rule. So Eile Divrei Sadron, the Sadron, he calls the Sadron is the one that had put Ada Yoim Hazeh. It was in the time of the Sadron. There was a posuk there that says that so many they had to pay, I think, mass missing, and then Ada Yoim Hazeh. So Eile Divrei Sadron. So the Medrash Seichel Tov seems to be speaking about the Sadron. We have the Radak speaks about the Sofer put it, and the Mishra Shechator speaks about the Sadron, and the Rashbam, he just says, we don't know by whom, but Nichtevo b'mei Shoftim. So these are psukim that were written b'mei Shoftim. There is a by the broche between by the broche that Yankov gives to Ephraim and Menashe, there is a dangerous Rabbi Yehuda Chosid. They printed this Rabbi Yehuda Chosid by a certain Yitzchok Shimshon Lange, who found the Ksaviyat, and he printed it. He wanted to print it. He asked for Askomas, and he was in Switzerland, and Rav Levi saw these passages, and he actually straight away contacted by Moshe Feinstein what to do. And I will tell you why. What did he write? And then I'll tell you what happened. It's a whole story behind that. So, what did Yosef do? Vayomer Yosef lo yechen ovi ki ze abachor, simi minchu al roisho. Vayomer ovi, vayomer yodati bini yodati, gam hu yeh leom, v'gam hu yigdal bula machi vakot yigdal menu, v'zaru yeh melo yagoyim. Vayivorchem vayomaru leimo, v'cho yivorech Yisrael leimo, v'simcha elokim k'Efraim v'Menashe, vayosem es Ephraim lifnei Menashe. Then, so that's one thing. Vayosem es Ephraim lifnei Menashe. Vayomer Yisrael el Yosef, hine onochim es, אלוקים עמוכם והשיב אתכם אל ארץ אבותיכם ואני נוסעתי לחושכם אחד על אחיך שלקחתי מיד אמורי בחרבי ובקשתי. That's a very difficult posuk. What does it mean? There are two things. So ואני נוסעתי לחושכם אחד על אחיך שלקחתי מיד אמורי בחרבי ובקשתי. Where did Yaakov take from the Emoiri that afterwards he will give it to the Chatzi Shevet Menashe, that he will give? Where did Yaakov take it? Who took it from? Who took it from? Who made the war against the Emoirim? Who made the war? Moshe Rabbeinu himself. Moshe Rabbeinu did the war. It was in the time of Moshe, not in time. And so, what is the pshat here? So Vayosem es Ephraim lifnei Menashe. So we have two psukim here. Vayosem es Ephraim lifnei Menashe is not a problem. It's a repetition. So the pasuk ends Vayvorchem bayom hahu. You can check it up in if you want, but it's Vayvorchem bayom hahu leimo v'cho yivorech Yisrael leimo yisimcha elokim k'Ephraim v'Menashe. Vayosem es Ephraim lifnei Menashe. So says the Rabbi Yehuda Chosid, or at least the first print of that sefer. Vayosem es Ephraim lifnei Menashe. Somebody was able to save it because it was taken away from the shelves. Pirush Ovi, my father, because that's the son of the Rabbi Yehuda Chosid. Loi al Yaakov nema ki al Moshe. So Vayosem es Ephraim lifnei Menashe. That Moshe Rabbeinu adds on to what Yaakov has said. Vayosem Moshe es Ephraim lifnei Menashe berosh dege. Ba'avur sheYaakov omar v'ochiv hakot yigdal mimenu. So somebody that Vayosem es Ephraim lifnei Menashe is somebody explaining after the facts that why did Moshe Rabbeinu put the degel of Ephraim in front of Menashe is because Yaakov Avinu said that Ephraim will be bigger than Menashe, and so therefore Moshe Rabbeinu has put Ephraim in front of Menashe by the Dgolim. This is Rabbi Yehuda Chosid. So he says, and so who wrote it? So who wrote this? Yeshua Kosvoy or Anshe Knesset Agdola. So either Yeshua or the Anshe Knesset Agdola that added a pirush to explain us afterwards. It's like a little parenthèse, like we would put a footnote, and this is why Moshe Rabbeinu wrote it, but we didn't have this technique, and so it was put in the Chumash. And but this part, Vayosem es Ephraim lifnei Menashe, is written by Yeshua or the Anshe Knesset Agdola. Sheim toima Moshe Kosvoy v'loimach v'ani samti es Ephraim. If Moshe Rabbeinu himself would have written it, he should say v'ani samti es Ephraim lifnei Menashe. K'moshe yesh achreichem. Like it will be a few psukim later. V'ani nosati l'choshchem echot alochicho upirosh ovi sheMoshe Kosvoy b'shnasu arboim. בעבור שמוישה יודע שיעקב אומר אפרים מנשה כראובן ושמעון יולי. לכן נוסעתי לו לחצי שבט המנשה ממלכת אויג בבושון וממלכת סיחון מלך ואמורי. שמוישה אורגוי. שמנדין כל מה שניתן לאפרים בארץ, אוי אלוהי ליועץ לאפרים ומנשה. נמצא כל חלק מנשה יסר על אפרים בעבור הבכורו. ומוישה אומר כבר הסחלתי במצווה ונסעתי לחצי שבט מנשה מה שנסעתי. לכך מה שציוויסי ליהושע ולשניהם עושו חכול כמס אורז ליתן לאפרים כאחד מן השבטים ולחצי שבט המנשה כפי חלק המגיע. So in other words, Rabbi Yehuda Chosid, he writes, ואני נוסעתי לחושכם אחד על אחיכו אשר לקחתי, this is Moshe Rabbeinu writing. So this posuk, ואני נוסעתי, is Moshe Rabbeinu writing. And so who wrote Vayosem es Ephraim lifnei Menashe? It has to be somebody, which is also Moshe Rabbeinu. Why doesn't he say V'ani? Here, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't mind to say V'ani as Moshe Rabbeinu. So why doesn't he say V'ani samti es Ephraim lifnei Menashe? Elomai, it must be that it is the Anshe Knesset Agdoil or Yehoshua that have added that as a pirush on the Torah.
For me, I don't know the way.
Oh, so there's a whole balagan here. Why did he have to go all the way? Nobody, no Rashi, no Gemoras, nobody has a problem with this. And he makes a problem, and therefore he goes an easy way out. And it's a big, big balagan here. Because nobody, so far, I've never heard somebody having a problem with that. So Rashi explains, so Rashi has to explain our Pidrush, Tani Nosati, because of his tefillah, and it's a bit tak here, Chochmosoi v'tfiloso. Yeah, so it's that Becharti v'kashtim, it's like a difficult, but nobody thought of giving such a, how do you call it, shocking explanation. Everybody was sleeping well until now, and he not, and so he changes and he says that this must be written by Moshe Rabbeinu.
From what I understand,
Yeah.
from the words, we had a political issue,
Yeah.
which is Ephraim and Menashe, they were fighting. Why is this one before this one? So to solve the issue, we need a theological fix. We had something in the Torah and say, okay, now you stop. Basically, that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Unless I misunderstood.
That they had some question, textual question, and so they.
No, the textual question you can always answer. But from what I understand from him, it's because Menashe was before Ephraim, and it seems from what I extrapolate that there was some fight. Why is this one for this one? And you say, come on, it's but my feeling is exactly the same way as for the Kohen with Kohen. Why we have the Kohen and we don't go against them? I'm a becher.
Yeah.
They spoil me. I mean, literally, I have a post-it for it. I say, if you disagree, we will kill you. Okay, fine. I accept the Kohen because I'm afraid of Hashem. And basically, saying exactly the same structure as for the Kohen. It's like basically why I don't Hashem. Sure, that's we put it for Yaakov. Basically, that's so it's kind of the same I see. But because my was so I mean, we are not Christian. Even if it's a then you can say Moshe Rabbeinu said, you know, why it's written like this? Because you saw this and that's
but they don't. That's the question. The Chazal don't give an explanation. What does it mean? Or they give it tefillah. That I did it with my tefillah that I would daven so that later on they would win the Emoiri and give it to.
I mean, you can add instead of saying someone else. What is the explanation? And then you say what is
why you
have to add it to the Torah Shebichtav. You are not Christian. My point is this. Torah Shebichtav and Torah Shebichtav is combination. Then we force on Torah Shebichtav. Torah Shebichtav by itself doesn't mean.
It's I absolutely agree with you. This stance is a very extreme stance that was not necessary. Like you said, we could have asked it and then have an answer which gives up Pidrosh. We're going to answer, but we don't have to change directly in the Torah Shebichtav to touch it and to give a historical fact that it changed and this and that. It's a very.
My point is, I'm not arguing what you call. I'm not arguing at all. That's not my point. You want to change. Let's say it's true. Or no problem. My question is, what problem you had that the only solution you had was to add a possibility. What was this initial problem? Because every generation, so there is something among the Jews, among us, that you cannot fix unless you add something with the Torah. That's what I understand. But what is interesting is not the fact that they add a possibility. What is this initial problem that forced
okay, now I understand your question. You're asking why did the Anshe Knesset Agdoyle have to add that they were so afraid that something would happen and then
suppose they did it.
Okay.
But I mean, the interesting part is not the fact that they have written the Torah.
I understand.
It's really why that. Suppose it's true. Suppose we all agree with this. suppose the Torah had some.
And then they could have used Torah Shebal Peh. They could have used Torah Shebal Peh to explain. Add the Braise. They could have added the Braise, Mishnah, that explains it like that.
So you have this, but you have Eber Yarden, you have all the other. It means you have an initial
Very
problem.
nice. Very nice.
That's my point. What is the problem that would force us to add something?
Yeah. Why? Yeah. Unless it was they wrote it as just a footnote and it was added.
No, but then you have a problem because it means that Torah is true.
Yeah.
You can say I can add stuff in Torah, but that's already the Chidush. Maybe it's true. Not discussing why.
Why Dafka these things have to be added? Yeah. There's a sefer Tzognas Paneach, and the Tzognas Paneach is a pirush al Ibn Ezra la Torah, and he was it's also a pirush on the thing. It's printed many years ago, and then he brings down the Aknani Os B'Oretz, so he brings down the sod of the Ibn Ezra that Raloi, so that Shemishosh Oz Shemashmo Oz Hoyebo Avol Ato Enobo. So the Oz means that it used to be, but now it's not anymore. Aloi Moishe Kosav Esatoiro Ubiyomo Voiso Eretz Biat Aknani. Loi Tochen Shoema Moishe Az. Yadas Neusen Shenichtavo Milas Az Bizman Sheloy Aknani Boret. ואנחנו ידענו כי לא ישר הכנעני משום כי אם אחרי מוישה כשכובשו יהושע ולפי זה נראה שלא יכוס המוישה זו יסמילו בכאן רק יהושע או איכות משאר הנביאים כוסבו כאשר מוצאונו בספר משלי. And he explains why. וכוחו בכאן הוא יקבולו בידי ישראל שבמי אברום הוא הכנעני באורץ וכוסב אויסוי איכות מן הנביאים בכאן ואיכות שיש לו אלינו להאמין בדברי קבולו ובדברי נבואה מה לי שכוספו מוישה או שכוספו נובי איכות אחרי הואיל ודברי כולם אמס ואין בנבואה. So he understands the problem. So he says that the one that has written these texts inside the Oz, the Aknani Oz B'Oretz, was a Novi. And so what's the difference if it was a Novi from Moshe Rabbeinu? Is Novi like Moshe, if it's another Novi? You're not allowed to add any words in the Torah. התשובה דא, כי רב אברהם בעצמו פירוש זה בפרשת וישחנון, כי המילויס הם כנוסוי, ופה טעמים כנשומויס, כנויפויס, I don't read it, טעמים כנשומויס, על כן יש פרשת שנכתוב בתורה פעמים, פעמיים גם שלוש, ואחס תוספס עלו אחרת ואין נחשב בתוספת. ועוד, when he says, כי לא תוסיף עולוב רק על המצווה, כלומר, מה שהזהירו התורה לא תוסיף עולוב, לא הזהירו כי אם על מספור המצוות, on the tayag you're not allowed to add, ועל עיקרון, on the halachas, אבל לא על המילוי, but on words, some words that do not contain a mitzvah you can add, על כן אם הוסיף נובי מילו, או מילויס לבייר הדובר, to explain things, to explain, כאשר שומע מפי הקבולה, that he received it already from שומעים, איזו תוספת, not considered a תוספת, והראיה, מן הזקנים, כשתרגמו התורה בלושן יבוני, לתלמי המלך, כאשר הזכרתי, בפרשת נויה, שינו י' ג' דבורים that change, שינו י' ג' דבורים that change. Then he explained, מי ניתן להם רשות לשנו אצל להוסיף לגרוע בעבור אמס המלך? Yeah, and if it would be, ואם המלך או אלוהים כסירוסנו ואוי רואה ששונינו, אינו יאכיל אל השם בפרסיה, ורבסינו אומרו, כי במוקם שיש חיל אל השם, יהרג בל יעבוד. If the king would have checked and he would seen that we lied, so it would be a tremendous chilul Hashem. They can't be. They didn't mind to change a little bit. They were allowed to change the words to be mevai. Novi, novi, לפרש דבורו. ואף כי בדובר שאיננו מצווה, רק סיפור דבורים שעובדו. So only for historical facts they can do that, to add a little bit more in order to make it more readable and understandable, but not when it comes to add in mitzvahs. Then he brings down Arkin lo ikra tosefet. In Toimar, Odeinu Omru Rabbeinu Zal b'Sanhedrin Perek Chelek Shafil Omar Kol HaTorah Kula Min HaShamayim Chutz בפסוק זה שלא אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא למוישה מפי עצמו אומרו Olav HaKosov Omer Kedvar Hashem Bizo. יש לו זה על עניין המצווה כאשר אמרנו למעלה, ולא על הסיפורים. ומה ערך אחר, etc. And then he says, זה הסוד. Why does the Ibn Ezra not bring this like this מפורש? is אין רואי לא הדיעו לבני אדם בעבור שלא יזלזלו בתורה. כי מי שאיננו מסכים וידע יהפריש בין הפסוקים שנכתבו בהם במצווה, ובין הפסוקים שנכתבו בהם סיפור דבורים, he will make a mistake and then will think, oh, the mitzvahs are also not exact, it's not for Moshe, less, etc., etc. So I don't think that you can be more explicit than this sefer that explicitly mentions this opinion. Again, it's not, the question is, we've lived thousands of years until I've found this. I never had a problem with when the Bar Koira was reading it. Nobody had a problem with that. We all were sleeping good, I think so. Nobody had a problem. And this took him. Nobody had, but there's a good question. Why did they do it? And like you said, even if it is Levayer, why didn't they be Levayer that in other texts? And they could have written a sefer, Pirush ala Torah. Should have written a Pirush ala Torah and explained that not to put it inside of the Sefer Torah. Sorry? Yeah, or in the Nach itself. Yeah, or maybe later in the Nach, somewhere in Divrei Yomim or
human being.
Yeah. Sovanas it's not from the Rogatchover, it's a Rishon. Yeah. There is from Rabbi Yehuda Chosid, there is also in the very interesting by the Be'er, the Shiras HaBe'er. It says, Oz Yoshe Yisrael HaShira Zois, Ali Be'er Enu Lo Be'er Chapu Soren Peru. It's a little song like that. So Rabbi Yehuda Chosid didn't like that, and he says Pirush Moiri Ovi, he says the son Zeu Halel Godol. This is Hoidul Hashem Kitov Kiloilam Chazdoi, because there is a very interesting. The Hoidul Hashem Kitov Kiloilam Chazdoi does not mention Musa said Israel. Only mentions, stops by Oig Melech Haboshon, Sichon Melech Moiri. But there is many more things that happen from then till David HaMelech, and he stops there. So there is an interesting. The Halel Godol does not mention the Knisa Setz Israel, does not mention other very interesting things that happen, but only it stops by the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. So only the things that happened during the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's a big problem in reading the text. And so Rabbi Yehuda Chosid says, it was written here, all Yoshem Yisrael Zashir Azois, when when it happened, and what did they sing? They sang that's how you have to David HaMelech Heisir Kol Mizmoire Yasmei I don't know what it means, Moshe Shebechumash V'chibron the Sefer Tehillim Shelo, and he added it to his Tehillim. ותדע לו, נויסן לחם לכל בוסו, המון אמרו, וסיכון ואוי גיסקי, רק כניסקו לסיכון מלך המוירי, כי לא ילם חזוי, נויסן לכל בוסו, כי לא ילם חזוי, ודלה שמוים. So therefore, it's stuck interesting how he explains it a little bit.
The Old Testament was actually written.
It was written in the Posuk in Chumash, and he took it out. So it's a very when Ramoshe Feinstein saw this, he said not to print Rabbi Yehuda Chosid, not allowed to print it. This person went against the psak of Ramoshe Feinstein. He printed it. It became and then there was so much pressure that they retrieved it from the bookstores. They did not, and they reprinted it without the difficult passages that I just mentioned to you. There is one more. I think there is one more Rabbi Yehuda Chosid which they did not take. Also by Mishkav Zohar also there is a difficult one. Sorry? No. So what happened is that in Oitzer HaChochma, I think they have I don't know how, but they have uploaded the first version. So this I printed from one of them. I printed mamish from the Oitzer HaChochma. What? No. Oitzer HaChochma is like a website where you can download all kinds of sforim. And so this was still from the first version. Look. Le passage Mishkav Zocho, c'est que c'est à cause de pour vous. Il met le lien entre Mishkav Zocho et pour vous. Ça veut dire que ça donne un moins grand Issour. Ouais. I think there's a few passages, so they reprinted it, and in Gilad also they put text. In Gilad, because there was by chance another sefer that came out, which was a Mikos Gedolos, bringing all the Rishonim together. And they brought Rabbi Dachosit, came out, and new Rabbi Dachosit, fantastic. So it was, they used, and then a few passages they brought from Rabbi Dachosit, which for Moshe was Apikorsu. And so therefore, and it was too late already. And so in Gilad, all the Rabbi Dachosits were, the difficult passages were defects, were pulled out of the, yeah.
Again, why is it?
Yeah.
To create all this story. What's the goal? That's
yeah.
Okay, yeah, it stopped at Agmer Raboshet. So we can define perfect of explanation. No, the explanation that could be taken. No, it was in the Torah.
Moi, je peux essayer de.
Ouais.
C'est bien. Il faut placer les places. Il y a pas. Dans l'époque, là, c'est Karoui. Je voulais tellement garder le texte. Et ça même créait la menace contre la. Ça, c'était Pierre. Et dit, maintenant, la menace, le front, comme la ligne Maginot, dans la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, la ligne Maginot, c'était plus ça. C'était pas ça qu'on avait pas totalement. Donc, la plupart, écoutez, vous voulez me coincer dans un texte tellement fort que la Terre va devenir quelque chose qui n'est plus actuel. Ouais. Donc, je lance une pour montrer, c'est-à-dire je me sacrifie.
Ouais.
Ouais. Mais je me sacrifie. Ouais. Je me sacrifie pour envoyer un message pour toutes les générations. Et la Torah, c'est pas ça. C'est pas du latin. C'est un texte qui vit.
Et question avec le Torah chez Balpé.
Après ça, par les Midrouchim.
Ouais.
Il continue par le Torah chez Balpé jusqu'aujourd'hui à 11h, à midi, Ikkar. Voilà.
Non, mais je vais continuer sur ta base parce que c'est important. J'ai déjà donné quelques fois. I already gave a few times a share on the subject of the subject of what is the Ikkar, is the Torah Shebirsav or the Torah Shebalpeh or both. And I already spoke about that. We live today in a world where there's a bit of hypocrisy because we live today, we only learn Gemara and we neglect the Torah Shebirsav, although we say that Torah Shebirsav is the Ikkar. But in reality, it is possible to say that the Torah Shebirsav is just a summary of the Torah Shebalpeh. The Judaism was transmitted orally. Kodesh Baruch Hu taught Moshe, Moshe taught Yeshua, etc. And the Sefer Torah is only a book that we use in order to transmit further, to base ourselves. Just is a how do you call it? Some blueprint, a blueprint or something that carries the whole Torah. There's just a summary of what the Torah Shebalpeh was all about. And therefore, Chazal sometimes they make limudim just to find, but 1 second, I have a problem. I received that as Torah Shebalpeh, and the text doesn't say like that. It's not a problem. Change the vote here, put the vote there. So it's just to associate what we have received already by the Anshe Knesset Agdoilo to the Psukim. But the Psukim on itself not. And the Karoim, they were the ones that said, no, the Torah Shebirsav is the Ikkar and the only thing that we have to see. And the Torah Shebalpeh is just, maybe traditions, but the Ikkar is the Torah. And so at that time, the Karoim were indeed fighting. And so Rabbi Dachosit wants to kind of say, I don't have a problem even to say that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't write it. This posuk and this posuk. Because for us, Judaism is not the Torah Shebirsav. The Judaism is what we have received from the Anshe Knesset Agdoilo. The Masorah is what we have received from the Torah. And then the Torah Shebalpeh is the Ikkar. And the Torah Shebersav is only a supporting material that and that's how we live today. We learn Gemara. For us, the Judaism, we don't take out of the Chumash, we take it out of the Gemara, the Talmud Bavli, because that's what makes what we have received. That's what we believe that we have received from Sinai. So it's possible. Is it more or less what you were going to say? So it's possible.
It sounds like very good.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, I will keep myself with you to show that we have our sources. Okay, what this brings us. I understand. And I mean, but the problem is, if you take this today, why I'm not no, with time, it evolved, we had a new one. It was
So,
idea, and
so to explain, now, no, okay.
Or Christian, if then you don't have a change in the. But
the point is exactly that. That's what the latest thinkers attributed. Why does the Rambam go so strongly against this type of behavior? And who are those people who have it? They say it without any, they just say it. Wrote, without any even trying to defend themselves. So these are all Ashkenazi Rishonim, and Ibn Ezra, together with the Rambam, were Sfardi. They lived in the Arabic world, where the Muslim claimed that we have falsified the Torah. And so for them, they had to, either the Rambam says, whoever says that is an Apikoros, or the Ibn Ezra has to say it Beloshen Soy. But those are the Sarfati. The Tzefnas Paneach was a Sarfati, and the Rabbi Dahosit was clearly a German, lived in Germany. So the whole idea there is that in Germany, we were under the Christians. And the Christians did not they did not challenge the text, that the text was clearly holy text. And so therefore, for them, whether it is Moshe Rabbeinu who wrote this text, or it was Anshe Knesset Agdoilo, or it was Yeshua, or maybe Ezra Sofer, that's not relevant, because we all agree that the text is holy. And the question is only, who is the author and when was it written? This is our holy text. This is our Tanakh, which Anshe Knesset Agdoilo said every single letter is holy, is part of our Torah Nevi'im and Ksuvim. And so therefore, the question of the author is not so important, that has changed, or that it was a living book. But according to, in the world of the Muslim, world of Islam, to say that is confirming indeed Islam. To say as if we have changed, and therefore they claim that we have changed so much that we cannot accept the Prophet Muhammad anymore. That originally, in the original text, it was written that somebody will come probably from Shmuel and he will tell us, and then we have removed it. Politically, we have removed it. And the question, of course, is why in Europe we don't have Sefer Torah which mention the prophet of Ishmael, and also in the Qumran we don't find any mention of that preacher, and so in the Gemara not. So we have to go back till I don't know when. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah,
it's not a true.
No, but they claim that it was probably written somewhere that.
Remove anything in you related to a future coming. That's why you don't see in Qumran.
Yeah.
But no, but the problem is that here, when the Rabboni story today is writing something or saying something, it's never for your own generation. It's for all the future generation. When we say Torah is we define it generation, so you have to base yourself on. Why? Because whatever will come in 3, 4, 5, 600 years from now, what you are saying it's Torah, it's true. But what is it today? It's maybe 600 years. If you are saying, well, it was a deep, but I'm not discussing it's true or not, but that thing, it means it was true that, but it's they do.
Yeah.
So and if you go this way, first of all, what I see there are we say the Kedusha of Torah is first, and the Kedusha of the if it's from the Czech Knesset Agdoilo,
no, it's not because they no.
By fact, if you have so the Supreme have less you cannot add to the Torah, but whatever. That's one of the points. But it also means that, and in the future, that said, Toyota Hashem Torah. I don't know. The explanation means the Torah itself, the change it at their time.
But
and it's
because the word Torah, so where the question is a Torah. When it says Torah min hashomayim, we explain Torah means the Sefer Torah and the letter. Torah can also mean the mitzvahs, means the general, the Judaism in general, the Torah. Yeah. Yeah, but it can refer to the Tayag mitzvahs that are in the Torah, but not as a text. The word Torah, if it would say HaTorah, then it would be the Sefer HaTorah. What? Yeah. Yeah. But no, that's what we say. We say it, but
it's clear.
But when Chazal say Torah min hashomayim, it doesn't say HaTorah min hashomayim.
It's it means for all generation, but if you go this way, I mean, it's because you can take anyone, or the Rambam, or whatever generation it is, you don't have a problem with that. You can live with it. It's no problem. When you start saying, well, here we have the Torah, but let's negotiate. As you said, we have the Torah Sheba'al Peh, and that's the most important. I don't know from where. For me, it's combination. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying that's it's a combination. And you have difficulties with the Torah Sheba'al Peh. Is the Torah Sheba'al Peh explain you how to do the Torah Sheba'al Peh, and then you come to a chapter. Also, then you will change later because that's the base. We need this base as untouched because this base is. If you touch this base, it means this base is not from Hashem itself. So the Torah Sheba'al Peh,
it's also not.
It's not because by definition, if one is not, the other is not anymore.
Like I said, there is.
It's a question.
It's a question, but on the other hand, there is no need. There was no need before Rabbi Dachosit and before the Tzot Paneach. We lived thousands of years without this type of explanation, and nobody had a problem with that. To say what they said is like you said, it devaluates the Torah itself dramatically, and there was no need. And the question is, why did they find that it was interesting to add this type of pirush? Is a valid question. What is interesting, however, is that it's clear that the Ikkar from the Rambam was not unanimous. It was not something that existed from originally, because otherwise they would not be allowed to say that. Okay, so the Ikkar from the Rambam, the 8th Ikkar, which says that the Torah Zois, whoever says that it was added later on, is an apikoros. That was something that was not living. It's not something that he himself had to put forward, because in his time or a bit later, people had other ideas about that. The question is very valid. I don't see the point. Plus, it's true that those kisvei yados have to be very careful, because the Rashbam, we see the Rashbam printed in ours at a completely different shot than the Rashbam that was in the kisvei yad. So you see already here that what? What? I don't know. It's I don't know. That's why it's a bit. It's a Moshe. For the Rashbam, it was in the Moshe. They think it was under the. Yeah, they found. I don't know where they found it, but they found it. I don't know. What bothers me a little bit, and here is a bit. I'm going to say something which. It's the same Yitzchok Langer that printed the Rabbi Yehuda Chosid, also printed this Moshe scheme. Now, I don't know who he is, Mr. Langer. I don't know if I'm not going to say, but it is the same Yitzchok Langer that discovered this, because probably he is somebody who likes to look for in Oxford and in these places. But he's the same that actually printed this Moshe scheme with the Rashbam, that also printed the Rabbi Yehuda Chosid. But anyway, there is a Medrash Seichel Toivu also, but there he says Asadron. So the question is, Asadron could also refer to Moshe Rabbeinu, not necessarily. But it's a bit difficult. Also, who wrote Adayom Hazeh that we don't know the what? Enough. It's always a problem.
In school, I was told
that Yeshua wrote it straight after Moshe passed away. Adayom Hazeh. 3 days later, they still don't know.
no,
I mean, it doesn't make sense. It's a bit difficult.
In school, we learned that whenever you will be reading all the future to still be like that, and it will never change.
Adayom Hazeh.
Yeah.
Well,
Till today.
then in Mitzrayim, I'm sorry, but in Mitzrayim, I don't know if the power. There's no more power. Till today.
There's no more power, but till the last power was alive, he got fifth.
Till the last power. It has to have a power.
When they say it was people,
the last power was less than 100 years ago.
The power is not there. The power is not there.
But as long as power is there.
There's no power.
Even the Manu power would not come to.
Yeah.
He lived till 100 years ago, 200 years ago.
Why?
The last power, last pharaoh was.
No, it was destroyed by during after the Romans. So basically, with the Romans, by Cleopatra, which was already not the power. So from the time of Alexander the Great,
okay. Who was ruling Egypt 200 years ago?
200 years ago?
And who was on the throne? Who was on the throne?
They are the people of power. But people of power were blacks. The Arab came and they colonized the whole Middle East. There was no Arabs in that time.
So, for example, the word Azazel is also the word Azazel. That this is a word that came later. That this is a word that also because the Ibn Ezra also gives a sod, but he explains the sod by this Tokmas Paneach. You find it that the parashas Gorvele that Shloi Omar Moshe ze apostle elo acher kosver el Azazel. Alte Tamme that now Azazel a midbar. Loshon Arami came to midbar Azazel. How can it be Loshon Aramis? The Torah Elomai somebody else wrote. I find it agree with you that there is this ease of saying somebody else wrote it. Like it's like an easy we don't understand this post. Somebody else wrote it, edited it, and then we don't have to break our heads. It's like it seems like to me a bit of an easy way out, and which has no foundation. And also, like you said, if that's the case, why did they change it? What did they add to it? Why couldn't they leave it how it was? And finish. Why does he have to say now as change the word midbar? Nobody would know what the midbar is. You need to have the haramic. And what about all the other words midbar that isn't the term? But it seems to me a very interesting and easy shooting, like somebody will easy like using like that. Why? That's a difficulty in the.
Because what we do, suppose it's support. What we do is this. I mean, okay, what was it? Then what? Me at my time or
no.
What you do is
no. What when you learn it, and the way that you want to learn it, that you want to translate it.
No, but what's the point? What you will do is
because that's why he says it's only for stories. It's only for stories. It's never going to be in halachic mitzvahs. Psukim that are halachic mitzvahs, no. There is Rabbi Chosit, he does one thing, but he doesn't change the halacha. But he does by the what? Sorry?
You change your scope.
No, but that's
what you do with it. Menashe, Ephraim before Menashe, you change it. We have preferred people. We have Israel before.
No. So since Yaakov gave him more for Bechor, he gave him more. So it was teaching. Yaakov was teaching Moshe Rabbeinu that when he's going to put the dagger, he's going to give. Moshe Rabbeinu should already start giving him before he gives to the other brother, and that. So it's only an halachic. No, but the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu Vani is Moshe.
No, but suppose I'm Ephraim, you are Menashe. What does it?
No, but this Yaakov Avinu already gave him the.
No, but what does it mean? Suppose I'm part of Ephraim.
But there's nothing to do with the. No. This I don't agree.
I'm pushing.
No. But he says here. בכל קורבן מן חוסכו במלח תמלו ולסש בס מלח Bris Elokecho. The word Bris Elokecho is, where does this come from? So Rabbi Yehuda said in the Pirush, it says Bris Elokecho is something that was added later on after where it says in the Borim that Kofkis Melach, that they says also Bris Hashem Elokecho. Those who will not follow the Bris Hashem Elokecho will end up with like Kofkis Melach, and so therefore they added on the Bris Elokecho. Why did he have to say that? Why can't he just leave it? I don't know. It's like that's his. In any case, should we be Zoiche to Besuras Teures? Klal should be in. Should only hear Besuras Teures, and we should hear already the Shofar of Moshiach Tzidkeinu V'Meir V'Yomeinu Omein.